Good evening, family, and welcome to another wonderful edutainment edition of The Art of It Stinks. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, The Art of It. And this is News-Free Dixie for the 21st century. Once again, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and laymen, this is News-Free Dixie for the 21st century. Welcome to the We All Be experience. Now, I'm going to weigh in a little bit. I know people have been asking me, well, Brother Ron, what do you think about the Kevin Hart Oscar situation? And a pretty interesting topic to talk about right now. So many people got opinions about the situation. I thank God for social media because we could actually have a conversation with everyday people. We don't need talking heads to have a conversation about us. We must continue to reclaim the narrative by any means necessary. Let me say once again, let's reclaim the narrative by any means necessary. And what I got to say about the Kevin Hart situation is simply this. Paul Mooney is a prophet. Patrice O'Neal is a prophet. Cat Williams is a prophet. Yeah, y'all calling Cat Williams crazy. I know my friend, the late great Baba Dick Gregory, said that Cat Williams was brilliant but crazy. Yeah, crazy like a crazy fox. Very, very brilliant, very insightful. Y'all said Cat Williams was hating on Kevin Hart, but you'll let him know what time it was. And Kevin Hart, in the words of Paul Mooney, he got his nigga wake up call. He recently got his nigga wake up call. That's what Paul Mooney was saying. And the thing about it is there is a price to pay. Patrice O'Neal, if you could Google Patrice O'Neal, he's one of my favorite comedians. He talks about, he's on YouTube, and I think it was on the Opie and Anthony show. He was a regular contributor to the Opie and Anthony show. He talks about the price you pay to be famous and successful in Hollywood or Hollyweird. He did a great commentary on what it takes to be that successful. He was real close to Kevin Hart at one point. He actually stayed at his home when he was out in L.A. During the quote-unquote early years before Kevin Hart really made it big time. He was staying with Kevin and his first wife at their home. So Patrice knew Kevin well, and he was there when he was on the come up, and he lived long enough to see him blow up. So what they say, he talks about how in Hollywood you got to make these deals to become successful. And that was his reason why he wasn't as successful in terms of mainstream success, because he refused to make those deals. Because people don't understand, in The Godfather, is that scene in Godfather 1 with Marlon Brando character, Don Vito Corleone. He's talking to his godson, Johnny Fontaine, played by the singer Al Martino, which is loosely based on the story of Frank Sinatra. He talks about, in the scene, Al Martino was crying to his godfather, Godfather, I want to star in this movie. It could really be a comeback for my career. I could probably win an Oscar for this movie. He crying to his godfather, and, Don Vito slapped him, hey, be a man. And then he told him about, in terms of with the Hollywood head honcho producer, I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. So you make these deals in Hollywood to get somewhere. You make them an offer you could refuse. Because basically what happened is that Kevin Hart took Cat Williams' place in Hollywood. Just like when Dick Gregory stepped back and Bill Cosby came in and took his narrative, took his place in the Hollywood story. Dick Gregory started getting more active and conscious in the civil rights movement for black people. And so he took a step back from his very lucrative career in order to take that route. And then Bill Cosby came up. He was second in line. Same thing with Cat Williams. I didn't say he got into some movement, but Cat Williams, I remember he did a couple of comedy specials. One in particular where he exposed the dark side of Hollywood. And really that's when his trouble started. When he started talking about some of the so-called rituals in Hollywood, some of the people that we admire and love and respect, how these people, had this sexual dark side to them and all this other stuff. They made these deals in the bedroom, and that's when he started having his troubles. And so, Kevin Hart came along and was propelled in this spot. It was really for Cat Williams. 'Cause I remember Cat Williams, he was doing like what Billy Crystal and Robin Williams and Whoopi Goldberg used to do, that homeless marathon or something like that on cable. And I actually remember he did one of those spots for them in that marathon special. And with Cat Williams, he was using a lot of nigger bombs for national audience. And yet, like he had the next up, but then he started talking about these rituals in Hollywood, and really that's when all his legal trouble started. And when everybody said, well, Cat Williams must be on drugs and all this other stuff. Sounds familiar when Dave Chappelle refused to honor the so-called $50 million contract with Comedy Central. People started saying he was crazy and that he was on drugs as well. See how it works? Y'all see the pattern here. But getting back, I heard some things about Kevin Hart. He put on dresses. He kissed The Rock and stuff like that. He kissed the ring. And now, they're trying to get him for tweets that was sent almost 10 years ago. Fascinating. There's no such thing as a Black Hollywood. But, he apologized so many times. He said, to hell with it, I stepped down. So, people talking about, well, he offended the LGBTQ and whatever they got added community. And people talk about, there's a gay mafia in Hollywood. It must be real. Y'all heard Judge Joe Brown talked about how he had problems in Hollywood when he was doing his very successful show. How people thought he was too masculine, and it was too much of a alpha dog to be dealt with properly. Like he wasn't too homo friendly according to them, even though he was just being himself. But there's the thing. Gay people do have a lot of power in Hollywood. Jewish people do have a lot of power in Hollywood. And to say that is not to be anti-Semitic, it's to be real. Jewish people, gay people run Hollywood. They do. Make no mistake, you cannot be successful without having a relationship with a Jewish person or a gay person in Hollywood. In terms of a business relationship. But think about Terry Crews, who chased around Cat Williams in one of those Friday movies when he was playing Money Mike, Cat Williams. Cat Williams always been very popular with black people, but he was getting chased around by Terry Crews' character, who was a homo thug, and Terry Crews got groped in front of his wife at an Adam Sandler party by a very powerful agent. He let this man grab his stuff, this big muscular football guy, in front of his wife. This is no different than how black men have always been emasculated since the days of slavery. Like sometimes this has been documented. You can look at a movie called Goodbye Uncle Tom, which was produced by some Italians back in the 70s. Look at the director's cut. It's long, but it's worth it. But it's based on primary sources and testimonies from the days of slavery. I don't care what nobody say. People talking about, we not slave. Look, slavery happened. This country, was built on free labor through the system of capitalism. So they would take the strongest, most hetero black male and rape him in front of his loved ones. They will break him. So this is not just women being violated. When people talk about Me Too, they think that only women got the market on being molested and exploited. You have things where young black boys were being molested and exploited, not only just by slave traders, but also the church. And Goodbye Uncle Tom shows these things where they had a scene, I believe it was New Orleans. Some of the biggest slave markets, Natchez, Mississippi, New Orleans, Memphis. But we have the church have nuns buying your little young black boys to be used as sex slaves. This stuff is real, and people need to do the documentation on this. Just like you talking about Jewish people, you had Jewish people that were very much involved in the slave trade, in the owning and enslaving and torturing of black people. This has been documented. One of the largest slave places was Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina at one point had the largest population of Jewish people in America. 83% of the Jewish people that lived in Charleston, South Carolina, owned slaves. One of the most prominent and wealthiest Jew in South Carolina was a guy named Mordecai Cohen. Look him up. Take a look. It's all online. You got Jewish historical references, Jewish magazines, media. You got Jewish organizations that talks about their involvement in the slave trade. But look at Mordecai Cohen. All this stuff is available. I mean, he was a philanthropist. He gave away a lot of money to start the nation's first orphanage. I think it was a Charleston orphanage. He gave a lot of money to them, served as their commissioner, but also he owned a lot of slaves and a lot of acres of land. He exploited black people for his family's generational wealth. Look up Mordecai Cohen. But getting back to Kevin Hart, this should be no surprise when you hear people like Paul Mooney warned us about this. Patrice O'Neal, Cat Williams, they all have warned us. They all have paid a price for warning us. And I think it's interesting about Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, for the most part, wants to be everybody's friend. That would, I guess, he don't want to offend anybody. He doesn't. I mean, he built his career about being very mainstream successful. That's how he marketed himself. And you look at what he said. He apologized several times before for his so-called homophobic rants. But truth be told, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a parent. But as a parent to know that, you would want the best for a child. People say, well, he could have scarred his son. He's a comedian, and I think that the best comedians talk about their family lives. Some of the best comedians do their best work when they talk about their family. And to me, to be a comedian, you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be real. So you got to be honest about your situation. You got to face your fears. You're basically sharing your fears, your phobias, and insecurities with strangers. When you talk about yourself and your family life in the audience, just being real. And I think comedians say stuff that people are too afraid to say, but they feel and think about every day. That's what makes the best comedians. This is why I love the people like Patrice O'Neal's or the Richard Pryor's or the Paul Mooney's, because they just be honest. They just keep it real and damn the consequences. Because if you're a comedian, you want to push the envelope. It's like, I don't know if Lenny Bruce could make it today. Lenny Bruce was one of the all-time greats, but he was a fighter for freedom of expression, free speech. What I like about this Amazon Prime series, the Marvelous Miss Maisel, it talks about the stand-up scene back in the late 50s and early 60s of New York City, is that it really highlights the sacrifice and the brilliance and greatness of Lenny Bruce, the price he had to pay, because he would do stand-up. He would actually get arrested by the police for the things he said on the stage for a paying audience. So it's like he's breaking the law by speaking his mind. The thought police are real. So he paid a price for that. So basically, 60 years ago, you had a guy like Lenny Bruce getting arrested for saying things on stage to a paying audience, for basically being a public nuisance, supposedly, because he was saying the things that people were afraid to say, but they thought on a daily basis. So you trying to put Kevin Hart on the same level as a Lenny Bruce? But could Lenny Bruce have a career? But then it's a double standard, because like some of his comedian friends, like Nick Cannon, came out and gave the receipts about how it's a double standard. How can white comics, or in particular white female comics, could be living in this day and age of Me Too, how can they get away with saying very homophobic charts, tweets and stuff like that, and nothing comes to them? Like Sarah Silverman, Chesley Handler, and Amy Schumer can say the things they say, and nobody says a damn thing about what they said, whereas Kevin Hart is continually apologizing for things he said 9 years ago. And, he said, and it was out in the media cycle back then. But then I also look at, you got people like Nick Cannon and A.L.L. Hughley. They are, coming out in support of Kevin Hart. But where is Tiffany Haddish? Kevin Hart came to her defense when Cat Williams made a critique about her and her come up in her career, and Cat is entitled to his opinion. And I think a lot of times we want everybody just to be, just be cheerful and grateful. But it needs to be to be true to themselves and to be honest. And it's okay too. It's called constructive criticism. But I don't see any Tiffany Haddish. She's like, lights out and really quiet and crickets. She's not saying a damn thing. It wouldn't surprise me if they have offered, if they haven't done so, offer her the spot to be the host for the 2019 Oscars. It wouldn't surprise me in one bit at all. And it shouldn't really surprise you, because Hollywood is not about making friends. You get power in this system through divide and conquer. That's the way it is. But this is even not about people who say, well, should we support Kevin Hart because he's trying to be colorless. He's doing that. It's something about these black comics out of Philadelphia. Kevin Hart and Bill Cosby, it's interesting. They don't see color. They don't see race. It's all about hard work. They hard workers, man. I mean, I ain't taking away nothing from Kevin Hart's success or Bill Cosby's success. They work hard, but there is this elephant in the room called race. It's not always some of the hardest working people in the world are some of the poorest people in the world. Let me say that once again. Some of the hardest working people in the world are some of the poorest people in the world. So let me, y'all understand that. You got a person like Queen Elizabeth that never had a job. I don't even know if she could wipe her ass, let alone clean a toilet. You know what I'm saying? Whereas you got people that's working 3 or 5 jobs, still can't afford to eat, gotta get an EBT card, still can't afford to pay all their bills, and you working all these jobs, spending all these hours out there because the job is not designed to make you rich or wealthy. The way you get ahead in this system is through exploitation. You don't work for your money works for you, and other people work for you to make your dreams real. You understand what I'm saying? So, meritocracy does not exist. It's a myth. America was not built on a meritocracy. It was built on exploitation of free labor. America was built on crime. Like Lucky Luciano said, behind every great wealth, there's a great crime. But getting back to Kevin Hart, this is bigger than Kevin Hart. People are so conflicted about, should we support? We got to look at things that's beyond one individual. This is about, today him, tomorrow who else? Today it's Kevin Hart, but tomorrow. And really, it's a damn shame because it shows the weakness of the black community in this era, where people who are getting things done, they are working in a group. It's not just one gay person. It's the LGBTQ community. And they have organizations like GLAAD that you can name without even thinking about that come to their defense in terms of what they're trying to promote, their agenda. You got immigration organizations that make sure you know about the plight of the illegal immigrant and migration issues in America. You got Jewish people, got their people that talks about Israel first and about Jewish needs and Jewish folks matter and stuff like that. And you don't have to go through, let me just think about who speaks for Jewish people or Israelis or Israel. They already got their organizations, women organizations. Now they got, but what about black people? Who puts black folks first? Black folks needs issue first. You can't think of an organization that actually does that because they're too dependent on their so-called enemies to be relevant and to survive. You can't say the NAACP put black folks first. You can't say the National Urban League put black folks first. You can't. You cannot say that, but yet when it comes to society ills, it always seems to have a black man's face on it. It's like the black man must be the boogeyman for society. Homophobia, Kevin Hart, domestic abuse, Kareem Hunt, anti-Semitism, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. It's like this Willie Horton thing going on with America. It's the Willie Hortonization of America. We just had President George Herbert Walker Bush just passed. I'm gonna do something on him as well. It's been overwhelming. But the reason why he was able to become president was based on that Willie Horton ad that was produced by his campaign manager, Lee Atwater. And I don't know y'all know who Lee Atwater is. Just Google him. He's a guy that really is an architect for the Southern strategy. He was the mentor to Karl Rove. So this guy's reason why Republicans were able to get elected like Reagan and Bush. But he did an ad about Willie Horton, who was a part of that prisoner furlough program up in Massachusetts. Dukakis, who was the governor of Massachusetts, was running against George Bush back in '88. And he probably could have won if it wasn't for a couple of things, which include the Willie Horton ad that ran. And so really, America always needs its black boogeyman in order to justify its fear and insanity and lunacy when it comes to black people. So with Kevin Hart, he is not a Lenny Bruce to me. I don't know. Once upon a time, Kevin Hart used to be really, really funny to me. And he's not funny to me no more. I don't know. It's because of his choice of movie roles. I don't really care for Kevin Hart movies. I used to really enjoy his stand-up, especially the All-Star one he did, Shaq All-Star. He did several years ago. I thought Kevin Hart went, man, this guy was great. But I don't know what happened. I can't get through his last stand-up routine, comedy movie. But with that said, Kevin Hart should not be made to apologize so many times. But at the same time, like I said, go back to Patrice O'Neal. He did a thing that's on YouTube about the real truth about Hollywood and people making those deals. It's like, let's say they made you a star and they made you an offer you couldn't refuse. That means that, whatever they did for you, you're going to owe them something. Whatever they help you do, let's say they help you become a box office success, they're going to pull your card one day. And Patrice said, he said, well, they did something to make you successful. And then when they come calling and say, I want you to do this favor for me. I want you to go to this dinner party and put this in this person's drink to kill him. And you say, no, I don't want to do that. We'll say, well, if you don't do that, I'm going to kill your whole family. These are gangsters, man. You can't be no pushover in order to build things in a world like this. You got to be ruthless on a certain level. You got to be gangster about it. People don't understand that blood sacrifices are real. Jennifer Hudson, she's famous and, she got her money, but what happened? What had to happen before she could secure that bag? Her whole family was wiped out. Not saying that she did anything with it, but I'm saying people dying all around you and all of a sudden you going to that next level. There's connect. Like, look at wars. Wars are some of the biggest blood sacrifices going. They fight wars to make wealthy people even wealthier. Wars is about making a profit at the expense of the masses. It's about making a profit for the few at the expense of the masses. So that's what wars are. So, you look at, what is it with these Philly comics? Bill Cosby, Kevin Hart, these black guys, they come in, they American success stories. They have an incredible work ethic, but they think everybody else can do what they can do. They don't think that they had favor or they made some deals. It's like Bill Cosby's been so clueless. He's very smart in a lot of ways, but he's very stupid because he's been so insulated. He's been famous for the majority of his life, it seems. He's been famous since the 1960s. So, I remember talking to Judge Joe Brown. Judge got his fame late in the game. He got his fame after he had his career as a trailblazing prosecutor and judge, a game-changing judge when it came to the MLK assassination situation. And James Earl Ray, he got his fame late because they wanted to get him out of Memphis, and then they got him to Hollywood. But Judge was able to see what they were trying to do because Judge had a sense of street smarts. He had book sense, but also some street smarts. He understood how extortion works. Bill Cosby, even after he lost his son, it's like he was lost to understand how they was extorting him for at least 30 years. But that's another story. But with even Kevin Hart with his so-called cheating situation there, he had a so-called close friend and buddy of his was trying to blackmail him for money. He couldn't see the game they was running at him. But then I heard some things about Kevin Hart. So I'm thinking he wore a dress. Is he the new Flip Wilson or Milton Berle? He wore a dress. He kissed The Rock. The Rock held him. Why would they come out to Kevin Hart like this? Because the thing about it is, the new way they destroy you is not to kill you. They care to assassinate you. They destroy your brand. That's better than really physically killing you. Because sometimes when they kill you physically, they'll make you into a martyr. They'll make you into an icon. They don't want that. So now, I mean, I believe if Dr. King was alive and he was at his peak doing what he was doing back then, instead of killing Dr. King, they would destroy him via social media. Instead of killing Malcolm, they would destroy him via social media and public opinion. Because really, social media has created a lynch mob atmosphere. But, you know, it's the price you pay to want to be famous. And Kevin Hart is paying that price. It's like Burt Williams, the great Burt Williams. You look him up, y'all. Y'all look him up. Burt Williams. Who was Burt Williams? Look him up. You got the internet. Take a look. It's all online. Burt Williams, in the words of W.C. Fields, was the funniest man he ever saw, but the saddest man he ever knew. See, Burt Williams was a pioneer black comic. You know what I'm saying? He was a superstar back in the time. It was like what Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor was later on. He was that back in the early 1900s. Very light-skinned brother from the Allens, wore blackface, and that's a complicated thing. Was one of the first recording stars, you know, putting out songs and whatnot, making a lot of money. Was the first black star for the Ziegfeld Follies, which was like the Saturday Night Live of its day, which was on Broadway. His act, Mr. Nobody, was the inspiration for people like Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp, Buster Keaton, Al Cantor, Al Jolson, all these guys, W.C. Fields, they stole from his act. I mean, he was the GOAT of his time. But because of the race issue, he found it, you know, it was like, you know, the paraphrase Burt Williams, he said, I love being a Negro or black, but sometimes it could be an inconvenience, not because he hated himself, but because society make you want to feel bad to be a black person, to be a person of melanin. They look down on you. But there's this story that Burt Williams went to a saloon and he tried to buy a drink, and barkeep, or you know, the guy who was doing the bar, he was saying he don't serve Negroes, something like that, but he put out like a roll of 50s or 100s or 20s and stuff like that. He said, I'm buying for the whole house. See what I'm saying? Like, the guy was successful, but at the same time, he was not treated like he should have been based on that success. It was also, I remember I saw an interview that Eddie Murphy did back in the back in the mid '80s, I believe, with Barbara Walters. You know, I remember Barbara Walters, right? And he talks about, I ain't never forget this because like one of the things I was like early in the morning, but it stayed with me to this day. He talks about how he was at a grocery store at I think it was in New Jersey or New York. And he was walking either, I guess, to the grocery store, into the entrance, and he heard a call of some young white guys call him a nigger. But the thing about it was, he had his head turned. You know what I'm saying? They didn't recognize who he was. They probably wouldn't call him that. They knew that was Eddie Murphy, but they just called him a nigger because they saw this black dude. And it just stayed with me because this guy, he was popular. You know, he was on Saturday Night Live and all this stuff, doing some of the best movies, 48 Hours, you know, Beverly Hills Cop. And still at the height of this, you know, of his greatness, at the height of his, you know, amazing career, he still was called a nigger because the white folks could not recognize him or did not recognize his face or did not see his face. But it's like, even look at this scene and Do the Right Thing at Sal's Pizzeria. That a great scene, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where the Spike Lee character talked to the John Turturro character and said, why there's no black people on their wall. They got a wall full of famous Italian Americans like Joe DiMaggio and Frank Sinatra. And he said, why is no black people on your wall, Sal? Oh, no, so-and-so character. And he wasn't Sal. Sal was his dad. Why there are no black people on your wall. And you know, black folks, we are your biggest consumers of your product. Why can you not honor your biggest clientele with some black folks on the wall? And he talks about that. He said, well, you know, it's our pizzeria, but also he talks about how Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, people like Eddie Murphy, they're not like black people. They're beyond black because they're successful. Like they're bigger than just being black, which is interesting. They didn't see them as black. Like white folks didn't see OJ as being black. You know what I'm saying? Until he got in trouble with the law. Then he became a nigger. And it felt like they was betrayed. But that's interesting. Like Chris Rock had that joke in one of his stand-up where he said, I live in a community with like a Mary J. Blige and Jay-Z and all these people, but the guy who lived next door to me is just a white dentist. But yeah, I gotta be a superstar. I gotta be this exceptional human being. I gotta be this phenomenal entertainer to be able to live next door to just an average looking, average white dentist. See, this is how America works. America is weird. So like with Kevin Hart, I just believe you guys nigga wake up call. Also the fact that Kevin Hart had to step down from the Oscars shows how weak the black community, so-called community, is in this era of Me Too and anti-Semitism and anything else, isms that ails everybody else. And, you know, it's funny because people are like, some of these black LGBTQ people, I like that their gender persuasion or gender thing is more important than race. But there always been a lot of gay, white LGBTQ people. Look at Adolf Hitler. The people who helped him get into power, he had his own LGBTQ group. They were called the SAs, the brown shirts. Group full of gay white men who helped him get into power that Hitler feared so much that he had to kill them all or imprison them. Look up the Night of the Long Knives. This deals with Hitler getting rid of his supporters, this homosexual faction in his movement called the SAs, the brown shirts. I'm not making any of these up. You know, just look it up. It's all online. Get it while you can, while information is still able to be gotten, because they shutting things down. Censorship is real. But yeah, I just want to say something about that Kevin Hart thing. I just think it's interesting. I think people need to stop going to La La Land to begin with and get back in your mind, in our right mind, especially as black people. Start realizing what's going on, because the stakes are high. And we only got such a limited amount of time to really change this thing around. This is not about celebrity. This is not about individuality. This is about us working with us. It ain't about everybody getting aboard. This is like we just need some of us to get aboard. We do need organizations that really put black folks' issue first. There is no organization out there. Maybe locally we doing things on a local level, but we're not connecting. We'll have a national movement, which needs to be done. But what gives me hope is also that we got the new black grassroots media. Black traditional media is dead. It does not advocate. They cannot even afford to pay their light bill, their rent. They're out. So they're compromised. But now you got this bold grassroots media out here. Black folks that used to being shut out. You know, a lot of us to get our accounts suspended or terminated. We find ways by any means necessary to get the word out, though. I'm very optimistic about that. There's so many good people out there doing so many amazing things. I mean, like, look at Afro Synergy News. You look at Nicole's View. Look at my brother Gavin Richard. Look at Tariq Nasheed. You look at so many of us that I have yet to name. Oh, brother Darren Muhammad out of Baltimore, the state of the city. Check him out. I got so much hope for us because we got people like that. The Avaz Show, he does his thing. We may not all reach the same people, but together we reach a lot of people. And we got to keep on amplifying these messages to counter the narrative. We got to reclaim the narrative. Like with Kevin Hart, in my opinion, he's not homophobic. He speaks to the fears of a lot of people who don't want their kids to be gay. I mean, it ain't about I hate my kids. I got gay folks all in my family, right? I don't have any children. But if I have a child, you know, and the child trying to be gay, I'm still going to love my child. But my thing is, a lot of parents want their kids to be able to make more kids. You know what I'm saying? They want their kids to be hetero. This is not about hating anybody. This is a reality. And there's a lot of things. I mean, like, it's sad. One thing I like about the Trump era is that you got men finally standing up and trying to fight back. You know, we can't take this. We can't keep on with this BS toxic masculinity. There's nothing toxic about being a man. It shouldn't be. You should be afraid for your son to be a man. You shouldn't be afraid as a woman to be in a relationship with a man who loves women and who wants to take care of their responsibility and want to stand up for himself. Nothing wrong with that. It ain't nothing to do with sexuality, but we got this thing where man cannot be man, and there's a throw off. You got to have a balance. We got to get back to there's a place for men. But men got to be honest about it. We got to be honest. If you are a man, you got to be honest about our situation and the things we need to do to correct it. Go Kevin Hart. His thing was he been emasculated so long, and now he want to stand up for himself, and people not taking him seriously. He said, "I'm through apologizing. I said my piece. I want to move the hell on." But you got folks in your ear, but Kevin, you can't say that because you're gonna lose your contracts and your endorsements. It's like, to me, you always should have in your mind a number to say, you know what, I made enough money, and to hell with all this stuff, I'm walking away. You should have some walk away money. You should make enough money in your lifetime and enough great investments where you just have some, I'm just gonna walk away from this shit. Goodbye. Some fuck off money. I'm gonna fuck off on this. Fuck off. I don't need no more money. I'm good. I got my assets in order. I can make my money quietly now. I find other ways to you know, do things I want to do in this world. I'm not gonna compromise my soul. So many of us have compromised for so much less. It's like what Ice Cube said one time during the NBA strike, the little short NBA strike we had recently. Said, just because that's the most money you ever saw in your life, don't mean that's the best deal to make. Just because somebody offer you more money you ever seen in your whole life, does not mean you should take that deal. Bishop T.D. Jakes once said, you should be able to walk away from a good deal because the Most High, the universe, soul, God may have something better for you. And everything's a test. Life is just a bunch of tests. But with Kevin Hart, like I said, stay strong, bro. And we'll see. And I'm just interested if Tiffany Haddish is going to say anything in support of a guy because he came out for her against Cat Williams. And they always going to call you crazy when you try to be honest in a system built on lies and deception. They call everybody crazy and insane who speak their mind, who tell the truth, who tell their truth, who stand on something, on principle, on morals. You can't let society dictate what your morals are. You got to have your own individual moral compass. You got to have your own standards and codes. A lot of us are lacking that because a lot of us just want to be popular and want to be fitting in. I can't fit in the bullshit. You're going to like me or you're going to hate me. I can't do that. You know, I like Kevin Hart. I used to want to be like really, really famous like that and, you know, do all that. But it's a price you pay for fame. It's a price you pay for a certain type of success. Can you live with yourself? The things you had to do. You look at Me Too movement. A lot of these people, I'm not saying everybody, but some of the people are coming out now because they feel like they betrayed themselves. They feel ashamed of the things they had to do to become famous. I have a friend or college classmate. She wanted to become a successful director in Hollywood. Even though she had the family connections, she told me, Ron, every time I try to meet with somebody, they'll always tell me, hey, you got to sleep with me if you want to get this job. And she said, the hell with that. She moved back east, went back to school, got her doctorate, and she's a tenured professor. Traveling the world, doing things she want to do, inspiring her students and colleagues with her impactful social work. So what they said, she could have decided to stay and play that game and be successful, but be soulless. Be so traumatized by her decision. But you got people that decided to sleep with these people, to do these things, and now they feel bad about everything because now, you know, there has been. A lot of them can't get a gig no more because they either too old or they burned too many bridges. So now they want to, you know, strike back and revenge. But they made those deals. You know, it is what it is. You know, live with it's like Terry Crews gonna have to live with that fact that the dude grabbed his nuts like that, and he talked about it and it's out there. But you know, you look at Terry Crews, like, man, he had all these muscles and he put this. But then you saw in the Friday movie, he was chasing Money Mike around trying to get his draws. That's Cat Williams. So I mean, my thing is, did a dude know something about Terry Crews? It's like with Kevin Hart. You hear things about Kevin Hart. How is he homophobic when y'all saying he be doing other stuff? He wore dresses. He kissed a man. How is he homophobic? I don't know. It's the games. But like I said, they don't assassinate. If JFK was alive, they're probably doing JFK like they're doing Donald Trump or MLK. They don't kill you no more like that. What they do is they'll character assassinate you and destroy your brand like they did Bill Cosby. That's the best way to kill you now. All this, no, we're going to kill you physically. Now, we don't want to make no more martyrs. We don't need no more martyrs. That's what they're doing now. So peep their game. Even with this scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I know I'm getting off topic, but Okay, family, I think I said all I said, but you know, another thing about Philadelphia and Cosby and Kevin Hart, they come from a place of extreme racism like Philadelphia. They call it the city of brotherly love, but they be promoting brotherly hate. I mean, they just now recently put a statue up of a black person in Philadelphia. Philadelphia got all that phenomenal black history. They just now putting a statue up of a black historical figure, Octavius Cotto, who was killed by some Irishmen on election day in the late 19th century. He was fighting for black folks to have equal rights and also to be able to vote. And they killed him, and they're just now putting a statue of him. And he's the first black person to be given a freestanding statue in Philadelphia. Octavius Cotto, look him up. Look him up. And also, this is the same place where they dropped the bomb. You dropped a bomb on me on Move back in May of 1985, I believe, with a black mayor, John Wilson Good. John Wilson no good. But I'm saying you drop a bomb on a block in a neighborhood that killed black people, innocent black people. So think about all this, family. But in the words, okay, that's all this to say. Support grassroots black media. Support the We All Be Info movement. Cause we out there, cause we all be in it to win it. It's all about us. Cause in the words of Miss Shirley, we all in the same game. So with that said, family, if you feel inspired and moved by the message, please feel free to share it with your colleagues, friends, and family, and frenemies. And frenemies. Donate to the cause. PayPal account, email r2c2h2@gmail.com. That's r2c2h2@gmail.com. You can also send us a money order to attention Brother Ron Hurt II, addressed to the We All Be Group Incorporated, P.O. Box 752062, Memphis, Tennessee 38175. Once again, that's attention Brother Ron Hurt II. That's HERD, like a herd of cattle, P.O. Box 752062, Memphis, Tennessee 38175. Also, you can support the movement. You can buy art and frame it and wear it. Go to r2c2h2.com. You can buy the art. You can wear the art. Look at our shelf down there with the description box, because, you know, R2C2H2 art, you know, got some new designs coming out. So in the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. Good evening, family, and welcome to another wonderful edutainment edition of The Art of It Stinks. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2.